Football is the most popular sport in Africa, and lack of action due to the coronavirus pandemic continues to affect teams, players, and fans. In tonight's sports scene, we change format and welcome a cross-continental panel to discuss how the COVID-19 crisis has impacted the African game. Hello and welcome to Sports Scene, your weekly sports program that brings you all the African sporting news and reviews from an African perspective. We will highlight the thrill of victory while also showing you the agony of defeat. I'm Richard Nta in Nairobi. This is Sports Scene. Let's get real, let's get live, let's get at it. Here's what's coming up in the show. African football in limbo as COVID-19 continues rapid spread. And are FIFA COVID-19 relief funds enough for struggling African countries? Once again, welcome to Sports Scene. The Egyptian Football Association has postponed all events until mid-May. The suspension could be extended further if the COVID-19 situation in the country does not improve. This places the conclusion of domestic competitions this season at risk. CGTN's Adel Al-Makroui brings us more.
Football in Egypt is facing the toughest crisis in history. Millions of dollars of reported losses are only growing every week the sport is suspended.
Well, for more on the situation in African football, we are pleased to welcome sports analyst Kunle Solaja in Nigeria and CGTN correspondent Adel Al-Makroui in Egypt, and CS du Plessis, who joins us via Skype from South Africa. Gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to Sports Scene. For the purposes of this show, we like to call you all the three wise men bringing all the information and breaking it all down for us. We'll start with you, Kunle. What is the most likely outcome of the domestic football campaign in Nigeria, as well as the entire West African region, with the COVID-19 pandemic showing no signs of letting up? Kunle.
Yeah, in Nigeria here, there are conscious efforts being made because we have almost common situations.
All right, Kunle Solaja, I'm going to hold you to that. You're saying that you're optimistic that the league could be concluded not only in Nigeria, but possibly across West Africa. We're going to bring in Adel Makroui now. Adel, welcome, and welcome to Sports Scene. It's over to you, Adel. The Egyptian FA has extended the suspension on activities until May, the 1st of May. How is the lockdown hurting clubs and players over there? And football fans, how are they taking it, not only in Egypt, but across North Africa? Over to you, Adel.
So the Egyptian Football Association has suspended the domestic competitions and the restrictions over football lasts.
All right, Adel, we're going to bring CS du Plessis into this conversation. We've heard exactly what you've said. You're predicting heavy losses for North African countries in terms of football. And Kunle Solaja has some good news on the horizon. He still believes the football season can be concluded despite the COVID-19 once the lockdown perhaps is lifted. Now over to you, CS. Football is part of the South African fabric with the PSL, one of the strongest leagues in the continent. Are there any plans to finish the current campaign? Over to you, CS.
What an honor it is to be part of this trio of wise men talking about African football. And I must say that the optimism that Kunle has said about in terms of completing this league anywhere near the 30th of June.
All right, CS, Adel Al-Makroui, and Kunle, thank you all for breaking it all down. I'd like you to stay with us, gentlemen, because the Federation of Uganda Football Association, FUFA, distributed rice and other foodstuffs to vulnerable players and officials on behalf of the COVID-19 National Task Force in the country earlier this week. FUFA donated 12.5 tons of food to support the country's state drive to provide aid to the vulnerable population as part of efforts to stop the spread of COVID-19. All right, gentlemen, thanks for sticking with us. Kunle, I've got to ask you, what a heartfelt initiative, very inspiring initiative. Kunle, has there been any initiative like that in Nigeria or West Africa as a whole?
Certainly there's no such initiative in Nigeria. Rather, even at federal level, the government is still finding it difficult to reach personnel will be allowed at the various football stadiums in Nigeria.
Well, Kunle, testing is certainly good news. Certainly they can still take a page out of the Ugandan Federation's book. CS, I'm going to bring you back into the conversation. What's been going down in South Africa? Any such inspirational stories you can share with us?
I think one thing the COVID-19 pandemic has done is it's united the South African football club. So it's a united effort in South Africa, which is really good to see.
All right, that's good news, definitely, CS. Let's get Adel El-Maroui back into the conversation. Adel, thanks for sticking around. Adel, what are football authorities in North Africa doing to cushion players during this crisis? Adel?
Well, they are cornered to give support to themselves or to the clubs or ask for assistance from governments that are already leagues and those clubs in the lower divisions that definitely need the most assistance.
All right, well said, Adel. Well, there you have it. We've heard from our three wise men. Gentlemen, our conversation continues, but here's a brief look at the current league standings in selected top-flight football leagues in Africa before action was suspended following the outbreak of the coronavirus. We'll be right back. And we're not done just yet. More sport news here on Sports Scene. Here's a look at what's ahead. Are FIFA COVID-19 relief funds enough for struggling African countries?
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
And welcome back. The World Football Governing Body, FIFA COVID-19 Relief Fund, has come at an opportune time for struggling African member states. FIFA will release $150 million to its member football associations to help handle financial troubles caused by the coronavirus.
The biggest crisis for the EFA is paying salaries, because no federation is responsible for this current crisis. The role will lift the burden of governments because they have other priorities than to help football under the pandemic.
And we are delighted once more to welcome our three wise men guests, Kunle, Adel, and CS, for the last leg of tonight's show. CS, briefly, let's talk FIFA and funds. FIFA has just announced each member federation will immediately receive, listen to this, $500,000 as a COVID-19 relief fund. Is this enough to cushion African football? Very briefly, CS.
Oh, it's an interesting one. I mean, at the end of the day, it certainly will go a long way to cushion the blow and extending a hand to African football.
All right, let's talk to Adel now. Adel, thanks for sticking around. CAF declared the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifiers postponed. Adel, how is this likely to affect African teams in the race to make the Qatar World Cup finals? Adel?
I mean, there is no way anyone could speculate moving in a downslide, especially that no one knows how football will return and when.
All right, Adel, very insightful indeed. A great time now to bring in Kunle for the final question. Kunle, very briefly, this was supposed to be the closing weekend of the 2020 CAF Africa Home Nations Championship in Cameroon. What will be the long-term effects of this cancellation, bearing in mind Cameroon is due to host the 2021 AFCON finals early next year? Kunle.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that the African Nations Championship is not holding and may not hold. All the teams involved will have to forfeit their home matches for a neutral ground.
All right. And Kunle, with that being said, I'd like to thank my guests. I like to call them the three wise men. Thank you for serving us with all the information and breaking it all down for us. Kunle, Adel, and CS, thanks a lot. Thanks very much. That brings us to the end of our show, Sports Scene. That's it for this edition. Remember, you can send us your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms for the team. I'm Richard Sherlin saying thank you so much for watching, and we'll be right back here same time next week. Till then, take care.